Gamma, like I said, is a theoretical second derivative. It is a Greek that measures a Greek. When I tell people that, oftentimes their eyes completely glaze over, and many of them fall asleep immediately. I'm not here to teach a math class. I'm here to teach you how gamma works and how you can think about it. So let's start with the definition itself. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did for delta. Gamma is delta's sensitivity to stock price. Keep in mind, when I'm talking about gamma, I'm talking about how much your delta is going to move. When I talk about delta, I'm talking about how much the price of the option is going to move. So take a little bit of a step back and think about what this means for actual prices of options. Because when things move, when underlyings move up and down, the way that they actually acquire or de-acquire value is actually through the process of the gamma affecting change in the delta of the option. So when we're talking about gamma, this is the actual definition that you're going to find in any textbook. The anticipated change in the delta value for a $1 move in the underlying security. It again, if we talk about it with all other pricing factors remaining constant, gamma of that option is kind of a snapshot of how much potential energy that option has at that moment in time. This also is dynamic. It can move just like delta does, and it actually is the driving force behind the dynamism of delta. It's expressed in decimal form, just like delta is, and many people think about it as an adjustment to delta. I personally think about it as potential energy. That's what I think about gamma as. When I'm either buying or selling options, I think about the gamma of those options as their ability to change, to transform into something that they weren't before. So it is the ability for an option that starts in the money to become an at the money option or an out of the money option, or it's the ability of the out of the money option to become an in the money option through the change in delta. Only options have gamma. When I say this, many times if I'm talking inside a room full of people who are bond investors, they will disagree with me because bonds have what people call convexity. Convexity acts an awful lot like gamma, but it's not really gamma. Convexity is something that it's the change in a bond as it moves up and down. So it has many of the same qualities of this, but it's not exactly the same. Only options have gamma. Let's think about gamma as a metaphor instead of using a bunch of math. Like I said before, I want you to think about it as like potential energy, potential change within the option. Gamma measures how quickly the delta of your option is going to change. And when gamma is high, an option's delta can accelerate or decelerate very quickly relative to that same $1 move in underlying. This phenomenon is on display constantly in our marketplace now because of the move to shorter dated options. People trade shorter dated options now more than ever because there is more of a cadence of expirations. Many times in index options, you'll see that there are expirations that happen daily. You've heard the term zero DTE options. That's what this is talking about. Zero DTE options have exceptionally high levels of gamma and have very low levels of vega, what Emily talked about. Vega is commensurate with time to the back of the curve. As you move back in time, adding duration to options, they acquire more vega. As you move forward in the curve, they acquire more more gamma, because they are so much more sensitive to underlying movement. High gamma options, like I was talking about, zero DTE options, perfect example of high gamma options. These are options that are expiring potentially today or tomorrow or the next day. As you get closer to expiration, especially with at the money options, their gamma becomes exponential. You can think of different gamma profiles of options like different types of cars. High gamma options you can think about as like race cars, right? Why? They change direction very quickly, right? If you're an F1 fan and you watch the Mercedes-Benz car and you watch it go around the track, the most amazing part about it is that it takes those curves at like 110 miles an hour, right? Because it has the potential to hug the road and change direction very quickly. That is how high gamma options work. They change the direction of your portfolio very quickly by affecting change on delta. They change the delta of your portfolio very quickly. Sports cars have the potential to change direction quickly or accelerate or decelerate rapidly. These are high gamma options. Conversely, low gamma options. If a gamma that is high has high potential to change, guess what? A gamma that is low has low potential to change. When we're dealing with options in the back of the curve, in the back of the duration curve, like I said, they acquire more vega, but they have less gamma. That means they're less sensitive to underlying movement, but they're more sensitive to implied volatility movement. Now, I'm not going to touch on vega during this because that gets into a whole nother idea of how we want to think about options. But when you're talking about options in the back of the curve, they're going to have really high vega, very low gamma. That's what this is all about. Large trucks require significant force to accelerate or decelerate. If you're thinking about an option in the back of the curve, movement in the underlying is not going to move that option quite as much per every $1 move because the gamma is lower. Because it's less sensitive to underlying movement, it's more sensitive to vega. It's more sensitive to implied vol. It has more vega in the back of the curve. It has more gamma in the front of the curve.